what do you like to do between projects to feel ready to come back on set?
Move.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to meet you here in Brazil. And I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, the action is amazing.
Thank you.
And I love how we have different scenarios. We have a gym, and then like a construction scene, a rooftop, a jail. It's crazy how you manage to have all these scenarios and how the characters grab anything they have close to them. So I want to ask you, when there's these action scenes that are really choreographed, is there any room for either improvisation or to suggest as an actor, like, could we try this or something different?
Absolutely. It's a constant collaboration and tweaking and updating of scenes. Sometimes what you've done in rehearsals isn't translating as well on when we start to shoot it. It also comes from the preparation. You know, the only way you can improvise is if you've prepped the hell out of the scene and you know the moves back to front, you know the individual, the other stunt performers you're working with. It becomes intuitive at that point and instinctual. If you're going into a scene thinking about it too much, then there's a risk involved. Then you want it to be beyond thought, and be completely in your body. And then if there's a mishap or a misstep, something happens, you can keep rolling with it. And that's what the collaboration and the prep is about.
Nice. So is there a scene, Sam, that you had in mind and actually was greater than what you imagined once you shoot it?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the action sequences actually came out greater than I had imagined it, and a lot of that comes from having an open dialogue and a collaboration with an amazing, friend and artist like Chris. When in the rehearsal, action is, it's choreographed and it goes a certain way. When you arrive on set, new ideas are sparked. Our goal as action designers and me as a director is to have, the action be tailor-made for our actor so that he can do it confidently and do to the best of his ability. But there's times where we're choreographing, we might miss something, and he might say, "Hey, like I feel like at this moment this feels more truthful," and then you have to be open to that. And I think because of that collaboration, we were able to expand on and improve upon every sequence as we were shooting because of the open dialogue that we had.
It's really interesting in this story because yes, we have a lot of action. But it's a really sad story because your character is some sort of a hero, but it's more like a tragic hero, right? Because I think that I was watching the film and thinking like there are no tears that can wipe all this blood, How do you perceive your character between this tragedy and heroism at the same time?
Yeah, there's a broken individual in the first film, in this film, physically and emotionally, and I think that's what makes it interesting. I think if there's not an emotional depth and resonance for an audience, then the action doesn't have the same effect. There is a lot of guilt, shame, self-loathing, self-hatred that is buried beneath the surface of this tough exterior. And I'd like to think that is constantly trying to break through. This is a redemption tale, and it's about him seeking forgiveness from someone else, but also about him forgiving himself. We are all imperfect, we've all made mistakes. But what do we do from here onward now? Rather than living in the past, how are we living forward? And I think he is still someone that is willing to put himself within harm's way and disregard his own safety and health and wellness in order to protect those who are most vulnerable. And that, for me, I've found is heroic and also confronting and admitting his faults. And I don't think you see it very often in this setting in an action film. And so I think it was fun to explore.
Well, your character needs to train before he gets another mission. He has to be ready, So as actor and director, what do you like to do between projects to feel ready to come back on set?
For me, it's like spend time with family and loved ones and then but also try to constantly be learning, because I think part of the, you can only bring into a project that, your current state of knowledge and awareness. So trying to extend that and try to expand your horizons and learn new things, reading books, traveling, trying to meet new people. I think it's very important to refresh your creative instincts. And so I try to do that in between. It's just find moments of stillness to rest, but then try to expand the creative repertoire, so to speak.
Depends what the project is and what it's going to require of me physically. And You know, for Thor, it's a lot about lifting big, heavy weights, high calorie intake, you know, bulking up, so on. For this was much more about functionality, flexibility, movement. So my training in between projects is certainly dictated by what I have coming up next, but also my mental fitness is incredibly important. You know, during a project, it's intense, it's emotionally and physically exhausting, and you run on a very high level of adrenaline. Being able to switch that off or separate that experience in your downtime is often a pretty tricky transition. But when I come home, there's often a bit of a, okay, come on, slow down, Chris, sit down. When we're not in the war zone of the creative, process. So as Sam said, some solitude, some quiet, spend time with loved ones, get back to basics, recharge, and then dive back into it.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me, and can't wait to see the third one. But this one is great. Congratulations.